The president is at a fundraiser in California. This after the Republican National Committee posted some record fundraising in the month of August. To the Daily Caller News Foundation's Chris Bedford, the former Ohio Secretary of State, and former Trump transition team member Ken Blackwell, and last but not least, Jessica Tarloff, Democratic strategist, much more. So, Chris, let's get to you on this back and forth on the fundraising and the fact that Republicans believe that they're not going to have any problem on that front. Right now, the two premier Democratic candidates are having no problem on that front. We're talking about Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren. For some of the others, a bit more problematic. How does the money all sort out?
Well, the RNC has basically broken a record every single month of this year except for January, which would have been a hard month to beat since it was following the January before, which was the inauguration. And for about as well as the Republican Party is doing this, the party apparatus, the DNC is doing terribly because that money is being split amongst the primaries and all these candidates who are taking it, all the money that's coming into politics from that aspect. And you can kind of see the results of this in North Carolina, for example, in the special election. And the Republicans were behind in early voting and absentee voting, which is not too uncommon for the GOP, and then won these special elections on Election Day with a massive difference in spending. If I was Tom Perez over at the DNC, I would be seriously worried about the resources and about my job.
You know, Jessica Tarloff, Elizabeth Warren doesn't take any PAC money. She did when she was running for the Senate a couple of times, but this is different. She's running for the president. She's raised a substantial amount of money in small denominations. Barack Obama had done that. Bernie Sanders in his early days had done that. That's a sign of widespread appeal within the party. Does she have the edge in that regard?
I think in the fundraising category, absolutely. I think Elizabeth Warren was really competing more with Bernie Sanders than with Joe Biden, who has a different fundraising strategy. And I think if you look at the current polling and what's going on, we've had a slew of polls come out in the last couple of days post-debate.
When you say Joe Biden has a different fundraising strategy, she and her people say if your check clears, that's fine. But you know, is that the case here, and is that going to come back to hurt him?
Well, we've already seen a little bit of pushback about it, where he had a fossil fuel executive at a fundraiser that he was going to. What I mean there is there's nothing dirty about what Joe Biden is doing, but he is running more smaller fundraisers than kind of the big populist campaign, I would say, that Elizabeth Warren is. But that doesn't mean that the checks don't clear, as you say, or that he doesn't have broad support as well. The polls are good for Elizabeth Warren, but they are also very good for Joe Biden. He is much more durable than the chattering class was making him out to be, and that's really buoyed in that strong African-American support, which is not going anywhere.
Ken, what do you make of that? I mean, he has survived these criticisms that he's Popeye on the stump, that he has lost his fastball and all of that, and yet he comes through okay. And I know a lot of the president's people are worried about him because of how he stacks up, albeit in early polls. What do you think?
Well, look, I think this is going to come down to a handful of states. I think Joe Biden's embrace of the big government strategy of the Democrats will sink his ship. I think the rise of Elizabeth Warren is going to give us a more ripe target to fight socialist expansionism that is part at the heart of her agenda. Look, the president is not going to have any concerns about money. He, in fact, is now positioning himself as a problem solver, whether it be the Iran situation, the vexing problem of that nemesis, you know, or sustaining economic growth and job creation. So this president is coming down to his agenda against an agenda that we know that will be a socialist bent agenda coming from the left and the Democrats.
All right. We'll watch closely.
Who is driving that ship.
All right.
No matter who's driving that ship.
We shall see who that nominee is, whether it's a socialist bent or not. Guys, I want to thank you all very, very much.